you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now, how many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children go off to war. Don't stand back and wait for this violence to come to your door. Because now it's Chile, Guatemala, El Salvador. How many more? Tell me now, how.
Greetings, peace and love, peace and love. Let's begin this episode by saying happy African Liberation Month, or rather, welcome to African Liberation Month. This is day 7 of African Liberation Month. It's a time that we reflect on our struggles as people of African descent, whether it's in the United States or it's in the continent, motherland of Africa. We learn from those experiences to learn what we need to do, because our liberation struggle is about protecting our interests, protecting our self-determination, our right to be self-determined. So when we start talking about our liberation struggle, it's important to talk about our history. So there's a timeline, that I'm gonna go through, and I went online and I got this information so that I can share it in today's discussion. So this is a timeline of African liberation struggle. So you have African Liberation History Timeline, 1880 to 1900, scramble for Africa. European powers rapidly colonized and partitioned the African continent, leaving few independent states by early 20th century. Early resistance and nationalism, 19th to 20th centuries. African resistance to colonial rule emerged in various forms, from local rebellions to the rise of nationalist movements advocating for self-determination. Post-World War II independence movement, 1945 to 1960, following World War II, several African territories gained independence from European powers, with Ghana becoming the first African colony to achieve independence in 1957. Decline of colonial empire, 1950s to 1970s. The dismantling of European colonial empires accelerated, with many African nations declaring independence and forming the Organization of African Unity, OAU, in 1963. Liberation struggles from 1960 to 1990s. Armed liberation struggles, particularly in South Africa, challenged remaining colonial powers and apartheid regimes. End of apartheid in South Africa marked a significant milestone in African liberation, with the country holding its first multiracial elections. So that's just give you a brief outline of what happened where and who was involved. Of course, you have political organizations that were very serious about protecting their people's right to self-determination. And when we start looking at that timeline and we start talking about people like Samora Machel, people like Amilcar Cabral, and others, Steve Biko, we start understanding the sacrifices and that was committed to advancing our people to the liberation struggle. So in African Liberation Month, that's exactly our approach. We need to learn from the past, so we need to learn about what we need to do currently. The fact that we need to be out here, be a part of some organized structure, some organized movement, and make a serious decision about what needs to be done, because to ignore the problems is only co-sign what is happening, to co-sign the position of our oppressor, of our exploiter. And, that is of no benefit to us. So that's why we have to take our work extremely serious, find out who's doing what and why, and find out what our role is in it. And we have to be educated, right? We have to find the necessary material to read about our situation. We have to engage in theoretical development so we know exactly what we need to do when the time comes for us to take serious action to advance our people, to protect our right to self-determination. This book has been extremely beneficial to me. It took me some time to finally get it. I had the brother signed it for me, so it's dear to me. And to know that prior to him coming home, that I was actually writing to him. I had my son write to him. So it became a family project between me and my son. So the brother I had the opportunity to develop a relationship with this brother. So there's a section called Revolutionary Organizational Development and Responsibility, and that's on page 77. The establishment of revolutionary organizations is based upon the stage of the struggle and the needs of the revolution. Every organization has its own structure, which determines the criteria from which the masses can be educated, organized, and mobilized in struggle to confront and resist their oppressive condition. From the cadre, collective, coalition to the party and front, each determines its ability to serve a particular purpose in struggle. For the organized body to be functional, it must have a purpose and ability to gauge its strengths and weaknesses. Such a structure should fulfill every functional means of becoming self-reliant and have self-control in all of its operations. When I read this, I think about what is necessary when one becomes conscious in a revolutionary struggle and the struggle for our right to be self-determined. It means that, you have to find a place where you can express yourself in a way that's going to be beneficial to the collective. And you have to accept your role, accept responsibility. And this book, that particular paragraph allowed me to understand the seriousness in your one person's role and one person's understanding. Education is key, right? You have to know what you're fighting and why you're fighting it. You understand the interests of those who have power and the interests that you're going to have by struggling for power, because that power determines what's going to happen to you on a regular basis. And that's why our political prisoners are so important, so sacred to us, because they are very educated. And once they're in prison, they become even more educated, because now they have to focus. They have less mobility in terms of going where they wanted to go at any particular time. And now that is restricted extremely, now they become more educated, more advanced in their understanding, and they have not lost sight of making a contribution to our liberation struggle. So this is when the writing comes in. This is where the intense study comes in. This is where the dialogue is heightened so that they can participate in this struggle for our liberation. It's always important that we reach out for those who are commenting, and we respect those who are commenting wherever you're from. So for those who give input to this particular work, ask that you share, be continuous in making me better at giving information around our political prisoners, around our martyrs. We can't forget about them. This is African Liberation Month, and it's a time where we have to look internally in ourselves and ask ourselves, what are we doing for our people? Are we helping or are we hurting? Right? We have to make that distinction. This is another book that is dear to me, The Task Ahead, Selected Speeches of Samora Machel Frelimo. They were fighting against the Portuguese. It was a very serious struggle for people's self-determination, but Samora Machel understood the importance of developing theoretically. And how that happens through intense study. So there's some important, beautiful pictures where while they're in their liberation, part of the liberation struggle is ideological struggle. And you see them out in the jungle and they have a chalkboard. And in the chalkboard, it has different ideas that are presented to the cadres so they know what their role is and the importance of it, so that you're not just out here fighting without no idea in your head that you need to be at the heart of your struggle, of your fight. So it said on this page 45, apply principles and march to victory. The situation in Mozambique has long been concealed behind a curtain of colonialist lies today because fighting is in progress in relatively developed areas in which imperialist interests are very great, so that foreign attention is focused on these areas. Portugal is being forced very much against its will to reveal a part of the truth, albeit as little as possible and in a distorted form. This attitude on the part of the enemy shows that the comrades have been able to define their targets, hitting the enemy's most sensitive spots. Someone who is hit full in the stomach is at least forced to groan independent of his will. The colonialist groans are beginning to make themselves heard. So now when you see your enemy is injured, your enemy is not invincible, right? You know, sometimes some of us are intimidated about fighting because of the track record of our enemies. But I think that particular paragraph inspires people to continue to fight, to endure the fight, because, you know, you hit your enemy in certain sensitive places and your enemy is injured. And now, you know, you could take that any further. You could take that a whole lot further, rather, excuse me. But this is very important information that we start to look at it, because we need inspiration. We need encouragement to continue to struggle, continue to fight, to continue to persevere, because there are a number of casualties in our liberation struggle. And that's why when we talk about our liberation struggle, we have to talk about our political prisoners. People like Mumia Abu-Jamal, you know, have given so much of his life because of his understanding of what position that he needed to take. Him being a journalist, him documenting the record of the Black Panther Party, of MOVE, and letting people know that there is a way that we can stand up for ourselves. There is a model that we can follow. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be intimidated. We have to be enraged to do something. We are conscious, and now we need to be driven to protect our loved ones, protect our babies, our future. We have to secure that, right? That has to be done in an organized manner. That has to be done in a serious way, and that has to be done as part of a collective. We have to understand that this is a process that is taking place, that nothing is not going to happen overnight, that we have to be fully committed to this. So there's the mass and popular movement. The United States is an imperialist empire of monopoly, capitalist domination. The country's existence is based upon the domination, colonization, and exploitation of internal, domestic, and external nations. The acquisition of North America by Europeans was by use of force and genocidal slaughter of Native Americans, and the Europeans' ability to forge a nation into its present economic and technological condition has been based on hundreds of years of racist exploitation of Africans, Asians, and Mexicans, along with the plunder, colonizing, and controlling the natural resources, human labor, and institution of commerce of various third world countries. So this paragraph allows you to understand how the forces that are in power came to be, what are their tactics, what is their strategy, what happened, and how that impacts us today. And although the brother's talking about the United States, this is a program, or this is a template that happens all over the world. In Africa, we witnessing right now Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso. He's empowered. He's getting enough support. We have to protect him. We got to support him. We got to find out what's happening and how we can support him. We see the turnout. There was a number of people in the streets in an organized manner, and they were letting our people know that this is a man that we need to support. We need to keep an eye on those who may do him harm. We need to be his guardians wherever we're at. So we need to continue to find out more about what's happening in terms of what we can do and get involved. So contact those organizations that are on the ground doing some serious work, doing what is necessary, right? Because when you know that something is happening that benefits your people somewhere and you're not involved in that particular action, then, you know, you're not helping your situation at all. In fact, you're hurting. So as I've always said, we have to think about our role when it comes to our self-determination, and we have to support our political prisoners. And that's why it's very important that when I come on this podcast, that I let you know about the work that is happening. There's continuous organized work to free our political prisoners. People like Mumia Abu-Jamal, people like Joy Powell. I was just recently on a text message, an email message with Joy Powell, and she was raising concerns about what's being done, and she was giving me input as far as what she would like to be done. And I have to take that assignment extremely serious, because this is my work, this is my life. That's why when you see me, you'll see me with a hat on about political prisoners, a shirt on about political prisoners. So I want people to come and ask me questions. Like yesterday, I had a moment where I felt good, because this brother in South Jamaica, Queens, asked who was on my shirt. At the time, I had a shirt that said "Be Sekou," and it was a picture of Sekou Odinga. I briefed him on who Sekou Odinga was, former political prisoner, and I let him know about the organization that I'm with, and also let him know about the podcast that comes on. And he was listening. He was, I think, 31, 32. I'm 51, so that meant a lot to me, because I'm almost 20 years older than him, and so I have some experience. And he was really interested in what I was saying. I should have had some material to leave him with, but he subscribed to the channel. So once he subscribed to the channel, he'll get alerts. He'll see my face again. And if you're out there, my brother, or anybody who's out there that has an interest in doing this work and getting involved with the work of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition, contact me, Brother Frank, at 347-679-3936, 347-679-3936. We could use the support. We could use your talents to advocate for the freedom of our political prisoners, because we can't ignore them. We can't allow them to sit any longer in prison than they already have. On page 50 of selected speeches of Samora Machel, it deals with the enemy's new method. Each province, each region has a major task which comes within the general situation and strategy of our struggle, so as to achieve our purpose, freeing our land and people. In Cabo Delgado province, large regions are already liberated and under our control. The strategic task to be carried out in this province is to establish a reliable support base for expanding our struggle and building and developing a new society for the benefit of masses of the people. How can I take this idea or this concept to utilize it when dealing with political prisoners and advocating for our political prisoners to be free? Well, I can do this by being inspired by people like Sunyata Kohli. He came home. People like Jalil Abdul Mutakim, he has came home. And how did they come home? They had a defense committee. They had one hell of a lawyer or lawyers that were advocating for them to be free, challenge them if they were being denied at the board. And that's what our role needs to be. What talents do we have? How are we going to implement that talent in the decisions that is made to release them or not release them? Because if a political prisoner continues to be in prison, that means that the work is not intense enough, that we have to do more work, that we have to raise the consciousness of those around us. Because as I said before, we weren't always conscious. And when somebody took the time to make us conscious. So now that we are conscious, what are we doing with that? Are we engaging in conversations to sound smart, to be looked at upon as somebody that's credible, or are we looking to do some serious work? We need to be responsible with the knowledge that we possess. We need to be responsible with our consciousness being raised. And that happens through us taking action, us being involved in organized work, us being disciplined and focused. That's right. It requires discipline. Just think about all the revolutionary organizations, Frelimo, the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, and others, how disciplined they had to be to carry out their tasks. How disciplined you have to be to get up in the morning and sell Black Panther Party newspapers. How disciplined you have to be to make breakfast, to make meals for people who need meals, for your people, so that they're not going to the school be hungry. You know how challenging that is to try to be educated and on an empty stomach, The Black Panther Party knew their people, knew what they needed, and decided that they were going to get it done. But it required discipline, it required focus, it required commitment. Most importantly, it required love. And that's exactly what Samora Machel has for his people of Mozambique. He had it then and he had it now, right? His legacy is sketched or subscribed on the hearts of his people, those who are taking a chance or taking the time out to learn about who he is and what he's done. And talking about the continent of Africa, talking about the liberation struggle, and we go back for a minute. Let's go back for a minute to Ibrahim Traore and think about how he's carrying out the ideas of Thomas Sankara, that he understood the work that was necessary, right? So now the relationship between that particular part of Africa and French has changed, right? It's no longer beneficial for Africans there to deal with the French the way they once dealt with them, right? It's independence, it's freedom or death. You know, it's serious when you're talking about your self-determination. It can't not be no compromise. You have to have political maturity, political clarity, right? I thank Malcolm for exposing me to that term, political maturity, because often, too many times, people want to engage in politics like they're talking about the playoffs, like they're talking about who's the best basketball player. This is life and death. When you're talking about politics, you're talking about the relationship between people and power. And it's something that you need to take very seriously. And that's why you'll see me on this podcast weekly talking about our political prisoners, because I want those who are viewing to know that there's somebody who sacrificed for you to have what you have. And we have to show appreciation. The only way we're going to show appreciation, truthfully, is by getting involved. We can make financial contributions. We could write to a political prisoner. We could attend a program. We could pick up a book, purchase a book, whether we have the money or not. Get a library card. Make sure the book is accessible to you. So now that you can have some more clarity on what's been happening and why it's documented the way it's been documented, so that we can be further educated on what's happening in our lives during the time that we exist. Because our children, you know, they want answers, and we have to give them some clear answers. And the only way we are best equipped to give them those clear answers is by being extremely educated. So if you have a particular talent that you can give towards the work to free our political prisoners, I'd love to hear from you. Contact me at 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. I'd love to talk to you. I love to engage with you. I love to hear what you think about this particular podcast and how it can be utilized to move our people forward. On page 58, there's a paragraph, building the National Prisoner of War Amnesty Campaign. Based upon the above, both international and U.S. federal law determined that persons confined or engaged in the wars of national liberation against U.S. racist colonialism must be or afforded status as POWs, according to the Geneva Conventions. It is therefore necessary for political activists and organizations to recognize the validity of these political prisoners of wars, call for amnesty, and to fight for their release from prison or exchange to a non-imperialist country that will accept them. This is a very important point, because now we're talking about the international stage. And that's what Malcolm advocated for, us taking our problems to the international stage. And that's the same same approach that we need to take when it comes to our political prisoners. They need to be recognized as prisoners of war. There's been a ongoing war on people of African descent since the first slave was kidnapped. And the first slave decided that he or she would not do what his or her so-called master had said, that he or she had the right to be self-determined, the right to control their own destiny. So we were engaged in that resistance struggle, and some of us died, and some of us were prisoners. And that is why being identified as a prisoner of war is so important, because now you have international recognition. You have compassion from those who are struggling. For instance, you have what's going on in Palestine And it's a tragedy, right? It's even more of a tragedy that not enough of us are involved in their liberation struggle, the stopping of this genocide. And I think about Palestinian prisoners of war. I think about, this being on an international scale. And we, people of African descent, who identify that with that struggle, because that is a right to a people's self-determination, we have to deal with our political prisoners. We have to recognize them, and we have to engage with our children, so that our children is made aware of them and decide that they want to contribute in terms of ideas to their liberation. Right? Just imagine if a child wrote to the governor about a political prisoner, about a Joy Powell, about a Kamal Siddiqui, about a Mumia Abu Jamal. What impact would that have on that governor to use their power to release this person who is innocent, this person who, like any other people who is part of a group of people, has the right to be self-determined? And that is very important that we start to have some clarity on the concept of the right to fight back, the right to resist, the right to accept nothing but the best for you and your people. And that's why African Liberation Month is so intense, because it's a time where we have to read about our history more. As I gave you the timelines of what was happening where, and one of the timelines dealt with apartheid. And apartheid came out of existence because of the international support. You had boycotts happening in the United States. You had comrades in Cuba taking a position. You had a number of organizations, a number of nations doing their part, saying that this is not correct, that I'm going to use my talents to stand up. But prior to apartheid being destroyed, right, we still had our martyrs happening, right? We had a political prisoner with Stephen Biko before he became a martyr. We had Nelson Mandela being a political prisoner for over 2 decades. His being recognized as a political prisoner got him free because he had a number of supporters expressing their support for him. And we have to learn those lessons from those instances and apply them today in 2025 to our political prisoners. Just imagine how much more beneficial it would be to us if more people internationally recognize people like Kamal Siddiqui and Joy Powell. That's why I ask those who are viewing now to please share with at least 10 people. Ask those 10 people to share with 10 others. Write to Joy Powell. If you need the address, contact me at 347-679-3936. I'll give you an address. Let me know what you would like for me to do with any donation that you might be making to the cause. You can cash at me at SEFUSANKOFA. Just let me know about what you want done. I definitely would give you the details when I get it done, because my credibility is on the line when I'm asking for donation, asking for support in terms of funding this particular work, because I know that too many people come at our people wanting something and wanting to exploit our people, and I definitely don't want to be aligned with those. But down to my last minute, during this time, I like to address the issue with his brother, Ryan Hinton. He expressed his rage. He had did what a father would do who's very enraged about what happened to their loved one. We have to see what's happening from a broader perspective, and we have to ask ourselves, who determines what when it comes to us, and how are we going to respond when enough is enough? It's a deep question. It's a question that, you have to be very cautious when you answer it, but it's a question that needs to be asked and answered. I'm a father, and, my heart goes out to the brother, because I can only imagine the amount of pain and rage that he's experienced. With that being said, y'all know the call free and more. Contact me at 347-679-3936 about getting involved in the work of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. If you're an artist, we could use your art. If you're a website designer, we could use your talents. Whatever you can contribute, we appreciate it dearly. So be safe in your travels, and I'll see you next week. Peace and love. Don't let political prisoners die in prison. There's always something you can do.
Ever see Indians live proud and free before the oppressor's slavery? Black people live proud and free. How many more? Tell me now. How many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and say you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now. How many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children go off to war. Don't stand back and wait for this violence to come to your door. Because